Hey guys, what's up? This is Francisco with Valorizo Capital, and today I'm gonna do a quick review on a losing trade that I recently had on UNG. I'm gonna go through the reasoning of my trade. Why did I take the trade? Why it was a losing trade? What was my mismanagement with the trade? And also why I should have been a little bit more patient because the setup is actually triggering right now. So I was a little bit early, and as you know, in the market, being early is the same thing as being wrong. So let's go through the setup, and I'm also gonna talk a little bit about the setup itself, and I'm gonna show some other examples in the QQQ and also on Amazon, so that you can see how this setup tends to unfold. So right here, as I mentioned, I have UNG, and the dots that I have here on my screen, right? I have the blue which represents my entry, the red which represents my exit, and the green one that represents my actual target for the trade. And for the journaling of this trade, I'm actually using TradeSella, which is a pretty amazing platform, and you can see it right here. Here you can see what was my profit target for the trade, what was my stop loss, what was my risk reward that I was looking for it, right? What was the R multiple, which was 3.71, what was my initial target, what was the risk that I had for the trade, what ended up being my loss, and I'm gonna go through it. And then of course, if you go a little bit down here, you can see that I was a little bit up on the trade, and then it gap up and stopped me out, and that's why I wasn't able to respect my stop loss. And you can see right here, you can see the entry, the exit, and you can see the price that I entered and the price that I exited the trade. So now that you already saw that, let's take a look at the setup itself, which is right here. So right here, as you can see, we have UNG. That basically UNG, right, has been a momentum stock. Was going parabolic, basically a lot of volume coming into the stock. We actually broke out from this level, we went higher, we actually had this kind of a reversal candle on really high volume, which signaled a lot of selling. And then of course we had a pullback coming into that 21 exponential moving average. Then we actually had a shelf and a breakup higher. And the reason what I was trying to short near this stop in UNG was because the MOXIE indicator was already trending lower, right? Price was already going higher, but the MOXIE indicator was going lower. The MOXIE indicator was somewhere around this level when the price gap on this day right here. And I was looking for that gap up to fail and then UNG to head lower. Now, the problem with my execution in this trade is that usually this trade is called the DTSS setup. The DTSS setup is a double top short setup. However, the trigger for that trade is what is happening right now. So what do you want for a double top short setup to trigger? You want that, you want price to actually go above the pivot and then reverse on high volume and close below that pivot. So right now, the setup is actually triggering right now. You can see right here, this candle, we actually had the move above the pivot. You can see that right now we're reversing on higher volume and that we actually close below the breakout level. And then you can use the MOXIE indicator to actually confirm that there is no momentum in the stock. And you can see that the momentum is actually heading lower. And that actually confirms that this is a valid DTSS setup. So the problem with my execution is that I was early. So I got a stop out, and right now the setup is triggering. What I'm expecting with this setup, I don't have a position right now, but I'm looking to enter on Monday. The way that you manage these positions is that you set a stop right at the high of that pivot. So for example, if you enter the position right now, your stop will be somewhere around 28.15 or 28.20, or sometimes I like to give it a little bit more room, and you can set your stop right there at the high of the selling candle. And the target usually becomes that reversion back to the 21 exponential moving average, or sometimes you can cover some here. And if you bust that 21 exponential moving average, that would trigger another short entry, and then you will look for the bottom of that range. And then perhaps this 50 is going to catch up, and that will play as a really nice target to the downside. Now let me show you some examples of these DTSS setups working, and you can see that we actually had one in the QQQs. And you can see that here we have the pivot, right? Here we have the pivot. A lot of people are looking for that breakout. We actually have a move above it. However, on this day right here, we close below that pivot. And as I mentioned, you can use that pivot as your stop. So if you enter right here, you can see that the price went down, the price went up, but it never hit your stop, right? And then, of course, we had a really strong move to the downside, but the first cover point becomes that 21 exponential moving average or that 50. And if you're entering your position right here, right, the risk reward is pretty high, right? The risk reward is somewhere around, let's take a quick look right here. You can see that the risk reward you're risking somewhere around, let me just take this out, the magnet. You can see that if you enter your position here, you're basically risking somewhere a little bit less than 1%. And then of course the target is somewhere around 3 to 4%. So that's almost a 4-to-1 risk reward. So these setups always offer a really nice good risk reward, but you have to manage your risk correctly. And of course, if you have a gap up, then it's going to be a little bit harder to manage your risk. And then let me show you another example in Amazon, right? Here you can see right here we have the pivot. Right here we have the move above the pivot, and the day that it triggers is the day that we close below that pivot right here. And that is why I suggest that sometimes you use your stop right above the high of that selling candle, because most of the times we don't get there. And then of course we had a really strong move to the downside in Amazon. So I'm not expecting UNG to, right? I'm not expecting UNG to basically break lower and then just continue lower, but I'm do expecting that UNG is probably going to come into this range, at least test that 21 exponential moving average again, and then perhaps test the bottom of the range. And what I like about these setups is that you can manage your risk pretty tightly, and they offer some really nice risk rewards. So that was basically what I wanted to show you guys. This is called the DTSS setup. And then we just went through a little bit of my mismanagement with the trade and why the trade is actually triggering right now, and why my opening position should be on this candle and not on the candle that I mentioned on the video. So thank you so much guys for watching. I hope this video was helpful. This is just a setup that I'm sharing out with you so that you can have more tools to trade in this market. And I hope that you have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on future videos. Thank you so much guys for watching. Peace.